It's Friday, May 30th, 2025. Back and forth we go in the courts on tariffs. Dan Bongino says you won't believe what he found at the FBI, and Ask Her Tell Me Anything next on the AM Update. Congratulations, made it through another week, a short week on the AM Update. I appreciate each and every one of you for listening. Please, if you have even done it already, and especially if you haven't, give me a 5-star review on the platform of your choice. I appreciate you for listening, and I envy your reviews. We'll begin with this. A federal appeals court has paused Wednesday night's ruling from the Court of International Trade that blocked President Trump's ability to levy tariffs using the emergency powers he declared earlier this year. The appeals court also ordered both sides provide written arguments on the question of the blocking of Trump's tariffs to be filed by early next month. Of course, that adds even more uncertainty. First, it was a court I'd never heard of before, the Court of International Trade, saying, no, you can't levy tariffs, even though you actually have power to do so. You can't levy the tariffs the way that you did. There's another court that came out yesterday, tried to put the kibosh on more of President Trump's tariffs, and now an appeals court comes back to the original court, the Court of International Trade, and says, actually, no, these tariffs can go on for the time being.
Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap.
That's what it sounds like. That's what it feels like. And I think that's what the White House is feeling as well. Here's Press Secretary Caroline Levitt.
By saying that how ridiculous it is that we have been ripped off. Our middle class has been hollowed out. Our manufacturing base has left and gone overseas. Jobs have been offshored. And now no court did anything about that. No court did anything about hundreds of thousands of people being put out of work, about thousands of factories being closed down, about our deficits going to dangerous levels, as the New York Times has said. But now a court is trying to stop a president from trying to correct those wrongs of the past. And this administration will continue to do that. It's a promise the president made to the American people. And
White House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt with some very good messaging there out of the White House. You know, you can have anything bad happen to this country. Anything bad can happen to this country, and a court will step in and try to do something about it. But the moment you try to rectify those wrongs, suddenly, every single court of every single jurisdiction wants to step in and say, no, you can't do that. Story number 2, here's Deputy Director of the FBI, Dan Bongino, who says there's an entire room full of what?
Did you read the stuff that's coming out?
Does he still have loyalists in the building? Because when I hear the FBI director saying, you guys are finding boxes that are hidden, okay, how does that happen in the Bureau?
Well, we were there a couple of weeks, and luckily there were a lot of people up there who grabbed us by the arm the minute we came in and said, thank you for being here. You know, we need to talk. There are people there who are really horrified at what happened. And there was a room, and we found stuff, a lot of stuff.
A hidden room?
I wouldn't call it hidden, but hidden from us at least, and not mentioned to us. And then we found stuff in there, and a lot of it's from the Comey-era, and we are working our damnedest right now to declassify. And just so you know, because I get the public, I totally understand people saying, well, do it now. The process is not all the information is ours to declassify. Some is other intelligence agencies. It's not. We literally can't do it. Once that gets done and that gets out there, and you read some of the stuff we found that, by the way, was not processed through the normal procedure, digitizing it, putting in FBI records. We found it in bags, hiding under Jim Comey's FBI. Quickly, you're going to be stunned.
So Dan Bongino saying that there's an entire room at the FBI full of James Comey, former FBI director, James Comey-era classified documents that did not go through the standard protocol of actually filing. Just a room full of it. I mean, this smacks of, various types of criminalities. Mishandling evidence. I mean, every page of evidence there, classified documents, what have you. Mishandling of classified documents, if they were not digitized, if they were not properly followed in terms of procedure, that's one crime in and of itself. Why were they all in one room? I mean, that could be another can of criminal worms. Story 3, here is border czar Tom Homan reacting to the news of that Texas young woman who was getting ready to join the Air Force and who was killed by an illegal alien from Venezuela. Here he is responding to that story that they actually caught up. Finally, they were able to catch up with the 2 illegal immigrants. There was actually 2. responsible for the death of Texan Ava Moore.
Look, we got the most secure border in the history of this nation right now because of President Trump and his leadership. President Trump's a game changer. Like him or love him, no one's been more successful in securing the border than President Trump. Unprecedented success. But right now, we're seeking the millions of illegal aliens in this country illegally, many of them public safety threats to the Biden administration releasing the country without proper vetting. Look, I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of angel moms and dads, which is, you had this discussion before. Why do I take this job so seriously? Why do I get emotional and lose my temper in front of Congress or on news stations? Because I'm sick and tired of meeting angel moms and dads who buried their children because they were killed by an illegal alien that shouldn't be here. Under the Biden administration, we have proven that they released public safety threats into the community, knowing they were a public safety threat. Secretary Mayorkas stood on TV how many times saying everybody's property vetted before they're released, and we found out that wasn't true. Men and women of the Border Patrol had one instruction: process quick, release quick, because there's no overcrowding here, there's nothing to see, and there's no border issue. So these people were processed so quickly they can't possibly run their criminal history. Plus we don't have access to criminal history of people from Venezuela and El Salvador and these other countries. So Secretary Mayorkas lied to the American people, the Biden administration lied to American people, and we're trying to fix the problem. There are a lot of public safety threats in this country. 600,000, an estimate right now, 600,000 illegal aliens with criminal convictions walking the streets of this country. That's why we need this big, beautiful bill passed, so we can put the resources out there in the streets to take these people off the streets and deport them to this country just as soon as we can.
On that bill.
Border Czar Tom Homan on why he gets so upset, losing his temper in front of Congress and the media. He said, with his long career, he's sick and tired of talking to angel moms. Angel moms like the mother of Ava Moore, the Texan young lady who was slain by a couple of illegal aliens in this country from Venezuela. Senator Eric Schmidt of Missouri had these words on a podcast recently, talking about what America actually is.
And it's sort of a double whammy for the people that I grew up with. Mm-hmm. The jobs are shipped overseas for cheaper labor, slave labor, and nobody really wanted to talk about that. There was certainly a motive behind that. And then the people who were left behind in many ways were replaced with cheap, illegal, or mass migration here. And people are smart. And when you're in a state like Missouri, and I ran statewide 3 times in 6 years, you get around and and you talk to people. And Missouri was for a long time very much a bellwether state. You've got urban, suburban, exurban, rural. You got Southeast Missouri is much more like the South, and Northwest Missouri is much more like Nebraska. It's a sort of the cultural crossroads of the country. And when you get around and you talk to people, that's what they couldn't believe what was happening. And so when Joe Biden's letting 15 million people here illegally, people don't understand, how could the president of our country allow this? And the answer is that he bought into and was captured by this worldview that there wasn't anything particularly unique, that America was just some economic zone with an airport attached to it. And what we're saying is, no, America's much more than that. It's our home. We're a people, and we believe in things, and that we ought to be fighting for the dignity of the guy that doesn't have the PhD, but who wants to work, and he wants to be able to raise a family, and he wants his kids to have a better life. So I think it's important, before we talk about the future and where this goes, is we had to talk about the past, and there has to be a reckoning with what went wrong.
If you were a space alien who came to this planet, didn't know anything about the United States of America in the year 2025, and you wanted to know what MAGA was, that's MAGA in 90 seconds. They're from Missouri Senator Eric Schmidt, talking to the Daily Signal. Finally, on a Friday 5-pack, Wesley Huff, he joined Flagrant, the Flagrant podcast, with, I think that's Andrew Schultz, the comedian. He's also joined by Akash Singh, who asked a very good question, to which Wesley had an even better answer.
Man, you guys will forgive murderers? Jesus will forgive you murderers, child molesters, if he believes in them, or if they believe in him. But if you're a good person who doesn't fully believe in him...
Yeah, so to that, I would say there's no such thing as a good person.
Because we're all sinners.
So all good people...
There's no such thing as a bad person.
All good people go to heaven. That's clear biblically, right? But Jesus says no one is good but God. So we have a dilemma, right? All good people go to heaven, no one is good but God. What does that mean? No one's going to heaven. So the issue is like, so this is similar to the question of what do you do with the person who lives on like a random island in the middle of, Papua New Guinea and has never heard the God, the innocent, tribes person. And the biblical answer is that there's no such thing as an innocent person. In that I deserve hell. Me, Wes Huff. I deserve hell 100% of the time. That's like the wages of sin is death. And that's the language that Paul uses, in that I'm like actively working at a job to earn a wage. And that's sin and death, right? But the second part of that line is the gift of God is eternal life through Christ Jesus. So the answer to the question is that I think we are both worse than we realize and have the potential to do much more good than we realize. However, I am not going to heaven because of anything I've done. Right? I can't do that. That's very clear scripturally. You cannot earn your way to heaven. It's not about doing things. It's not about what I'm doing. It's about what Jesus did.
As apologist Wesley Huff on one of the largest podcasts out there, at least in the comedic space, on Flagrant with Andrew Schultz. And it's very clear, I've said this before and I'll say it again. When somebody kind of comes out of nowhere and then is suddenly everywhere, kind of like Wes Huff is, my spidey senses get a tingling. For whatever reason, they didn't with this guy. And it's very clear, at least for the time being, that God is using him to reach audiences that maybe we were thought 3 or 4 years ago were not reachable. When we come back, ask or tell me anything. How is this month of June gonna go? Wink, wink. Also, a question about my day job and what's the weirdest thing I've ever smoked? It's coming up next. 239 Travis for Ask or Tell Me Anything starts us off. Why did you delete the overtime on your day job? What are you hiding? I'm not hiding anything. Listen, not trying to make excuses. I took complete and total responsibility for what happened because it is my fault. But here's what happened. We had the show get over. We taped the post-show show. And I had about 45 minutes in between that. And we also had some more production that we had to do that started right at 2 o'clock. So I was trying to give myself some extra leeway, some extra time so that I'm not butting up into that extra production that we had to do that afternoon. And I did the process a way that I don't usually do it, and it's for this reason, because I already have a lot of plates spinning, and doing it this way saves time, but it also adds another plate to my already full plate, if you will, of spinning plates. So after the full show, I took the SD card out of the recorder, put it in the computer, edited the main show, and then I edited the main show during the post-show show, and I recorded on a different SD card the post-show show. After I got done editing and uploading the main show, I saw the SD card in the recorder, and I thought, I put that in there for the upcoming production that we had to do. And then I wiped the card, so we had enough space on the card to actually do that production. Because usually what I do is I record both the show and the post-show show on the same card. And I just got off kilter. It's a mistake I have not made in 8 years, probably. Gary Rasmussen is next. He says, DeSantis thinks we're screwed financially and pushed the gold silver as legal tender bill in Florida after the big beautiful bill. Currently looking hard into goldbacks and glint myself. So I'm not doing the specific research that you are, Gary, but overall, broadly, I think kind of what you're getting towards is something that I've been considering myself. I'm not planning on ever retiring in the American sense of the word. I'm just trying to build some sort of a way that I'm not a burden on my offspring. And maybe even if there's something left off or left over, I could pass it on to my children. I'm trying to build that now. But here's the problem that I've been having. And if anybody has any advice for this, let me know. I'm trying to decide if we have 30 years left. because that's kind of the time frame we'd be looking at here. In about 30 years, I'd start drawing on a Roth IRA that I opened up. Are equities really going to be worth that much in 30 years? I've been trying to determine what is the point, what is the point of national debt where we can't even service that debt anymore, where we become insolvent and things really crash and crash hard. I've been trying to look at that and when that might happen. And here's where the big, beautiful bill comes in. I think we're left with one of two options. There's no way that we are not going to be insolvent, because Congress is going to, has, and by and large sucks right now. So that's one outcome. The other thing is that a bill like the big, beautiful bill is the only way we try to get around or dodge the possibility that I just laid out. The first possibility, that we are just hell-bent on insolvency. Meaning that a bill like this, I mean, our country cannot survive a shock to the system of a balanced budget right now because of how much of our economy actually depends on government contracts. I hate that. That's not right. And should never have gotten even anywhere into the zip code that we're in right now. But the reality is that I don't think our country could survive the shock of bada bing, bada boom, a balanced budget and everything that would entail, all the cuts that would actually have to put in place. I don't think the country could survive that. And so you have to do this piecemeal and over time. And it would be something like the big, beautiful bill, which is, people say it adds to the deficit. Other people say, like Russ Vogt and Stephen Miller say, it's because of the way that the Congressional Budget Office does their scoring, that's kind of screwing things up, the perception of the bill up, what have you. But it is true that $1.5 trillion in cuts are in this bill. Is that a camel's nose under the tent thing to, hey, we can actually cut things, even if it doesn't look like we're cutting the deficit? We can start to cut things. Let's see what else we can start to cut. But we haven't even really made any serious attempts at reforming or cutting Medicaid entitlements. So I'm trying to figure out what, if anything, to invest in right now. So, again, I don't really have any answers for you, Gary. And I'm wondering if anybody listening has any answers for me. Because it seems like for a long time, IRAs, Roth IRAs, those are good things that you can kind of rely upon as long as you continue to invest. But I'm not even sure about that anymore. Charles Fehrenbach says whether the chances Chief Justice Roberts would be impeached if the FBI determines he leaked the Dobbs decision. 0. 0. Toby asks, how is the month of June going to look this year? Ordinary? That is an answer that I'm very much looking forward to. I think it's going to be, I think last year it was as muted as I've ever seen it. I think the chances that it could be actually more bombastic and flamboyant this year are actually higher than they were last year, because last year was an election year. But if the vibe shift that we think we have seen over this country over the past few years, if that is really palpable, then it might just look like an ordinary month. It might just. I'm going to be fascinated to see how this actually shakes out. Let's end with this. Melissa says, I grew my own turnips and smoked them over the weekend. What is the most out of the ordinary thing you've smoked? First of all, Melissa, I'm jealous about that iron wok or skillet that you've got there. I would love to have one of those for my smoker. Now, smoking turnips, never even thought of that. Never even thought of that. I have smoked, what did we smoke? Oh, we've tried to smoke asparagus. Doesn't really pick up the smoke flavor at all. We've tried to, we've tried to smoke sweet potatoes. Didn't really work. I think the most interesting thing that turned out well that I've smoked, and I've heard of other people doing this, but it's not like a staple or anything, is smoked cream cheese with some seasoning. That is really good on a cracker or chip. Smoked cream cheese with a little bit of seasoning. So that's probably the most interesting thing that I have smoked. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Bella and I will be back at it tomorrow for No Suck Saturday. 5 stories we think objectively do not suck. And AM Update Week in Review on Sunday. For everybody else skipping over the weekend, back at it again as always on Monday.